Hello, fiber friends. Welcome to Sweet Mountain Crafts Fibercast number 6. My name's Carissa, and I'm a lover of all things fiber. I enjoy spinning and weaving and knitting and crocheting, and today I'm going to have a little bit of carding to show you guys as well. So thanks for joining me. I'm excited to have you here with me. Thank you to all the returning viewers who have watched previous episodes and left comments. It's so fun for me to get to know you a little bit and also to be able to see how you relate to me in my world of fiber. I am online. You can find me at sweetmountaincrafts.com. I'm on Instagram as Sweet Mountain Crafts, Sweet Mountain Fiber, and Sweet Mountain Mohair. You can contact me through hello@sweetmountaincrafts.com. Thank you again for joining me today. Happy New Year! I'm so excited that this is the start of 2022 and that I get to endeavor in this year to podcast and be here regularly to get to know more of you guys and to share a little bit more of what I do with you. So here we are at the start of a brand new year. It's always fun to have a new year start and to get started on new projects. So today I have lots of new starts that I'll be sharing with you. Let's go ahead and start with what am I wearing. As you guys may have guessed if you've seen this on previous podcasts, this is the Marshland sweater. I've not yet taken a full photo of this to post, so unfortunately I don't have that to share on the podcast today, but I am excited that this sweater's done and I love how it fits. So I will be posting probably a finished project photo on Sweet Mountain Fiber, hopefully before too much longer. Next up, Keepin Me Accountable. So this is where I share some of the projects that I'm currently working on. I tried as best I could to get a bunch of things off my needles towards the end of the year, but in preparation for the new year and so many fun mals coming up, make-alongs that I'm hoping to participate in. So I do have a lot of things off the needles. So my Keeping Me Accountable section here today is more about things that I'm preparing to put on needles but haven't yet had opportunity. But I do have one project that's still on the needles that I had started just barely, or at least talked about on previous podcasts, and got started here at the end of 2021. So it's being held in this bag by Delightful Works. Susan sent me this bag, and even though the project doesn't match the bag exactly, this is just such a great time of year to use this project bag, so I wanted to put it to good use through the holiday season. It is holding, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 skeins or cakes of yarn. Some of these are still in skeins and some of them have already been caked up. But it holds quite a bit, so I would definitely say this size bag is a sweater's quantity size for me. But the project that I'm working on is my Comfort Fade Cardie. This is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, and I've had this yarn for a little bit. I dyed this yarn back at during the lockdowns of 2020 and made sure to keep a little bit back for myself because I just loved it so much. So here's the start of my sweater. I'm just barely at the end of the first color, and then I'll be adding in my initial fade. So I will be putting this on next, and these colors are hand dyed by me. As I said, I did this series of faded colors in 2020. It's my Daily Blessings line, and I do intend to bring that back this year. I just haven't had a chance to get that dyed yet. So let me get some other dye projects completed and these will show up in the shop again. But anyway, I'm excited to get this sweater done for myself. I'm looking forward to having the finished object, but I'm also excited to see this yarn knit up as I go. So this is just the very beginning. You can see the back of the neck and then the two front sides with the tops of the sleeves there. I will say that I did choose to gauge swatch this sweater, which is a good thing for me. I don't always do gauge swatches, but I intended to do the best that I could with this sweater to make sure that I wasn't going back and fussing with it to make it fit appropriately. So I made sure to do a gauge swatch. I did block this as well. And actually this swatch was made with a US size 6, which is what the pattern calls for as a larger needle. The pattern suggests that you should use a US 6 and a US 4 for the entirety of the project. But my gauge was too large, so I ended up going down, and whether, that could be because I'm a looser knitter than Andrea, and so I just ended up with a different swatch or gauge, I guess, on the swatch, or it could be due to the yarn itself. This yarn is a merino cashmere nylon base. I don't know that this is a base that I don't carry in my shop at this point. I don't know that I'll be bringing this base back, but because it has the cashmere in there, it's got a slipperiness to it, different than most merino nylon blends, and that could have affected gauge as well. So on mine, I did go down to a US 5 needle for my larger needle, and then I'll probably drop to a 3 for the smaller size needle in order to follow the pattern. This is a fun pattern, and if you go on Instagram, there's so many people that have knit this pattern up and done all their variations and everything, so it's fun to see. But I'm looking forward to continuing that in the next few weeks. My goal would be to have that done by the end of January. We'll see how that goes. All right. Another project that I'm looking forward to getting started here soon is a DK weight sock set, or sock, yeah. It was not a sock set. This was a DK weight yarn that I purchased from a Woolly Cabin. Again, the Woolly Cabin is now closed, but before she closed, I purchased this DK weight yarn from her. It's called Crayons, and it's a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And I really wanted to work with this base just to see what I thought of it. So I went ahead and bought a skein from her. My goal is to knit this up with contrast colors. So this is actually my base of 100% superwash merino. So there's slightly different yarns here, but I think with this just being the contrast, and this is going to be the body of the socks, I think that will be okay, that they're slightly different, that this doesn't have the nylon in it. This yarn has already been, as you can see, caked up into 2 balls, roughly the same weight. One's slightly larger than the other, but about halfway, so that I can make sure that I like to knit my socks 2 at a time. And so it's easier just to work from 2 balls rather than the inside and the outside of the same ball. I still need to obviously cake that up and get that ready. But this is my next sock project that I'll be starting soon. So this is going in my sock knitting bag, as I've shown on the podcast before, just a knot bag that I've made for myself that I use for my sock knitting. Another project that I'm looking forward to starting soon is being held in this beautiful bag from Australia. Joe sent it from Australia. It is made by Masked Circus, and it's a great project bag. It has stitch markers on the inside, and then it also has a zippered pocket, which I love, on the interior. So such a great bag. It's got eucalyptus leaves on it. I didn't know that at first, so Joe had to let me know that those are eucalyptus leaves and flowers on there, a pink eucalyptus. And inside the bag, I have some yarn that Joe sent me that I am so excited about working with. I love the colors of this yarn. I went ahead and caked these up as well in preparation for the beginning of the year, because this is going to be a project that I work on for Amal that I'll mention a little bit later. But the yarn that I have here is from Louie and Lola in the colorway Olive Grove. And this one here is a merino silk cashmere blend. So 70% merino, superwash merino, 20% silk, 10% cashmere, and it is so soft and smooth feeling. It's just creamy feeling yarn. So I love that base. And then the next one is a mohair silk blend, which is 72% kid mohair and 28% mulberry silk. So again, in the same colorway, Olive Grove. And I'm going to be holding these double for a shawl that I'm going to be knitting by Truly Myrtle. So Libby of Truly Myrtle designed the settler shawl, and I love the simplicity of the shawl, and yet the fact that it still looks complicated, but it's just a basic pattern with crossed stitches. So in the shawlography shawl, there was one row of crossed stitches, and I'll be doing the same thing on the edge of this shawl, but it's a one skein shawl, and so I'm just using that one skein of luxury yarn along with the mohair to make just a super cozy wintry feeling shawl for myself. So again, that's a fun project that I've got ready to go, and I'll get started on that very soon. The next project that I've got all getting ready to go and I'm so looking forward to starting is another knitting project. Right now it's in this little bag, which is kind of fun, but this bag I showed on a previous podcast as well was the top part was woven by Astrid of Unique Astrid. She's a young weaver, and she then took a portion of her weaving and then sewed this cute little pouch. And it's a small bag. It's not typically probably a project size bag, but I thought it might be great just to get started on this because I'll just grab the balls of yarn as I need them since I'm working with minis. So what am I making? I am working on using minis from my Unsafe Space Knitters mini skein swap. We ended up with 24 mini skeins, all from different people. And so my mini skeins I took and went through and I laid them out in a color order that I liked, and I don't know that I'm going to use all 24 skeins in this pattern. The pattern says that you can do, you can continue it as long as you'd like, but I think I'm going to probably do around 16 minis. But anyway, so the minis that I have, this is 1, 2, and 3. And what I did is I just, on their little labels that they came with, I marked the colors. So I'm just going to start going through and putting these together. But you can see I've already got these all balled up and ready to go. Here behind me on the chair, I have a few more that I need to get wound into balls. But the pattern that I'm going to make with them is called the Brioche Adventure by Talo. So Talo is a Swedish designer, I believe, and I just found this pattern probably on an Instagram search or possibly an Etsy search, and I did purchase it through Etsy. But he has some really neat brioche patterns. Not a lot of patterns at this point, but some fun ones anyway, and I really liked the Brioche Adventure. So I'm going to be working with these yarns to get started on that. Again, we'll see. Like I said, I have 24 minis, but I'm not sure that all of them will end up in that shawl because that would be quite the long shawl. So I think I'm gonna probably focus on 16, and then if I get to 16 and feel like adding more, I will. But I have at least 16 of the colors picked out that I intend to get started on that shawl. So again, like I say, I'm not in the middle of projects right now, but I certainly have some fun projects that are planned and I'm preparing to get all cast on. The next one that I have is again part of a mal that's taking place, and I'm gonna talk about the mals a little bit later because there's a number of them that I'm participating in here soon. But the yarn is some of my own hand-dyed. This is Two Sisters and Some Yarn set. So Two Sisters and Some Yarn is a podcast with lovely sisters Amy and Denise, and I had asked them at one point if they would be willing to let me dye up a yarn set that would be representative of them and their podcast. So this is the colors that I came up with because they told me that their favorite colors were purple and turquoise. So the two mini skeins here that are caked up represent one of each of the sisters. And then this main cake is representative of the podcast itself. So it is colors that I just thought of that made me think of what I hear them talking about and the way they interact, and just inspiration from what I see on their podcast. It's a fun podcast to watch, so be sure to check that out. But I have this caked up and ready to go, and what I'm going to be doing with it is super fun too. So Gingy Knits, a pattern designer named Corinne, has designed a pattern called the Two Sisters. She's designed a hat called Two Sisters. She's designed wrist warmers, also called Two Sisters. And then she's also designed a pair of shorty socks, all with this one set of yarn. So I'm anxious to see if I can get all three of those out of this one set as well. I'm looking forward to, I mean, Corinne did such a great job with the hat, the mitts, and the socks all have lace patterns on them, which is great because the Two Sisters live in Louisiana and Corinne's in Texas. So since they live in warmer climates, it makes sense to have kind of lacier accessories. And I'm just excited to get these on the needles as well. So Corinne just recently released those patterns. I know they're available on Ravelry, and they should be available on Love Crafts or Love Knitting soon. So be sure to check those out. She did such a great job with these. I'm just so excited. Thank you, Corinne. So much fun. Anyway, so those are my projects in the works at the moment. I am excited for some other things that I have planned, but at this point in time, I'm trying to resist caking up everything because I know that just what I have here will take me more than the month of January. I'd like to think I could get it all done in January, but not likely. So, all right, woohoo, I made it. This section of the podcast is to show off some of my works that I did get done. The first one, unfortunately, I don't have here with me because they were gifted away. It's a set of socks, and I'll put the picture up here. There were 3 pairs of socks that you see here. I did end up gifting away 5 pairs of socks total over Christmas, but the 3 pairs that you see in the photo are sets that I gave to my 3 boys. So at this point in time, my kids all have, except my daughter, I suppose, have pretty much fully grown adult feet. So knitting socks for my kids now isn't nearly as easy as it was, 7 years ago when I would knit socks for them, but it's still fun for me to do. So all the socks were using either online yarn or one of those pairs is Berroco sock, and Berroco socks, I guess is that brand name. And I knit them in slightly different sizes, but I did get them done. Interesting story. This is just who I am. I am a bit of a procrastinator, and when it comes to getting gift knitting done, it's funny how many times I can have a project that I tell myself I need to work on this, and then I don't until I'm under pressure. And anyway, Christmas morning, the one pair of socks that has kind of the corals and navy blues in it, looks kind of like sunset colors. I was finishing those on Christmas morning while we were opening presents, but I did get them completely off the needles as presents were being opened, and was able to gift them to my son, and just told him that I'll weave in ends and get them finally finished after he opened them up and got to see them. So that's kind of how I roll. I think my family just knows that there's going to be a project I'm working on Christmas morning, and I think I've done that probably once or twice, that I'm finishing a project the morning of Christmas, but that's okay. They love me and they accept me giving them those gifts that are getting their final touches at the last minute. So anyway, but yes, that was fun to get those socks done. The next thing that I got done is kind of I guess like a half-finished object, if you wanted to call it that. I'm going to put in a video clip right here, and while you're watching the video, I'm going to keep talking for a moment. But I was able to get a Brother drum carder, and as this is a business purchase, I went ahead and purchased a large motorized one because I knew that I had some business goals in mind with this carder, and so I was able to purchase this and then received it. And I was so excited to get this, have it show up and get it unpackaged and all ready to card, but I was a little overwhelmed at first, honestly. So it took me some playing around and some just, yeah, goofing off with it, making a couple mistakes. Because it's motorized, it keeps spinning even if I'm not quite ready for it. I have to be very attentive to where my fibers are or my clothing is, or, you know, my hair. I haven't caught my clothing or my hair in it yet. Hopefully that won't happen. But this is definitely not a toy for young kids to play with. I am excited though to see what I can do with it. So let me show you a couple things I've made. Here I have a bat. Now it's one continuous bat, but as I was taking it off the carder, it separated. So I'm going to just show it to you in sections. But here is a bat that I made, and this is going to be spun into an art yarn. And right now you can't quite see all the colors in it because as you put this on the carder, you kind of sandwich it. So this color is a mix of some Icelandic natural dark wools here, as well as a like some roving, I guess, from the company that I purchased the carder from, which was Green Goat Farm. And I will be sharing more of their stuff here in a minute. But anyway, so some there, and then this, you can see on this side, it's much more red. Because again, just the way that the fibers are laying, there's a mix of fibers throughout, but it's hard to see it all in the bat. But then you can also see possibly some of that sparkle in there. There's some green fire star. And so I'm excited to get that spun up. It's not top priority for me. Here's the other part of the same bat. Like I say, it just split on me. But it's not super high priority for me to get this spun right away, but it does have a feel of being kind of Christmassy. So it was fun because I was doing this just days after Christmas, that I was playing with my carder and having fun spinning this up. Or, excuse me, carding this up. Now I need to get it spun. But anyway, this is some of what I'm playing with. I also wanted the drum carder for the opportunity to take scraps and turn them into art yarns. So primarily, most of the carding that I'm going to do is either going to be for art yarn spinning or for mohair fiber spinning. So in time, and I haven't gotten there yet, but in time, what I hope to do is take scrap from mohair weavers and turn that into bats that I can spin from, and then turn that into 2-ply. I still need to play around with that and haven't had a chance to do that yet, but my goal is to get to that point with this carder. But in the process of just learning the carder, I figured I better start with just some fun things, just play with it a little bit, familiarize myself with the machine, and then in time I will start doing the other. So, for example, what I did just in playing with it, when I was finishing up my Marshland sweater, and I was going through and weaving in ends and then clipping ends, I end up with a pile of scraps much like this. I'm sure most of you that knit or crochet are familiar with these fun little fiber scrap piles. And I wanted to not just be throwing those away, but potentially using them for art yarn. So in the situation of this next bat that I'm going to show you, I used this pile of fiber that you can see in this picture here, and I put it with some Icelandic, kind of a cream colored, this is a natural colored Icelandic wool. The Icelandic fibers that I'm mentioning come from Kopia Cove, which is an Icelandic sheep farmer or shepherdess up in Montana. And so I bought some Icelandic from her because I wanted to see what it was like to spin with. But then I also had, I had purchased enough of it that I put some aside and just had it sitting there. And I thought that would be a great base to start playing with on the drum carder. So what I did is I took that Icelandic and put my fiber scraps, my yarn clippings, in with the Icelandic. So now I have this kind of confetti looking bat of fiber, and I look forward to spinning this up. I'm kind of curious to see what it's going to do. It was quite the experience just even putting it through the carder. You know, the little bits just get kind of sucked up in. And then again, what I tried to do, and you can kind of see this maybe on the back, I tried to sandwich those smaller pieces or those little strips of yarn. So on the back, it's just pretty much a solid coat of the Icelandic wool. And then I did some of the yarn scraps, and you can see some of the fibers coming off on me. I did some of the yarn scraps, and then I tried to put a secondary coat of the Icelandic over top to kind of help hold it together. This Icelandic is quite short staple length, and so I find that it tends to fall apart easily, but I don't think that'll be too bad when I'm spinning it. And again, since I'm going to be spinning an art yarn with this, I'm not super worried about overall longevity of the yarn, because yarns used for garments and accessories, of course, get lots of wear. They get pulled on and stretched and moved and washed and handled so much that that kind of yarn is going to need like super durability. But something like an art yarn, once it's woven into the project that it's intended for, most of the time those projects are going to be hanging on a wall or sitting on a shelf or not handled quite as much. So something like this bat is intended for a project like that, where it probably won't be used as aggressively. And then I have this newspaper in between just to help keep the fiber from getting too matted as while it's in storage. So that's my carding. So now this is, like I say, these are kind of like half finished objects because they still need to be spun. It's fun to have it carded, and that was a project unto itself, but now they need to be spun. So let me show you some yarn that I started with some fiber. I carded it up, and then I've got lots of fiber all over me now. Anyway, I started with fiber, I carded it up, and then I spun it. So I am going to be inserting some video as well as images here. What I did first is I had some roving from Woolly Cabin again. It was Christmassy colored roving. I'd shown it on here on my podcast already because I was going to spin it into art yarn. Well, I'd kind of separated that braid of roving into two sections, and the one section is still set aside for me to spin into art yarn. I haven't done that yet. The other braid I used with the carder along with some of my Icelandic, and mixed it together, did a nice blend until I was happy with the colors that I was getting. And then I spun that into a yarn. So you can see first, I'm gonna have the image here of me, of the bat. When I took the bat off of the carder, I rolled it into kind of a, I don't know, my kids called it a fiber turd. I don't know what you'd call it. But anyway, I had this bat of fiber ready to be spun. At one point I was going to use a diz, which is a round tool that has a hole in the middle where you pull your fiber through to create roving. But I don't have a proper diz on hand, and they're simple to make, but just at the time I didn't have one ready. So I decided to go ahead and just spin directly from the bat. And actually with this fiber, it worked fine. It was not a problem at all. So I went ahead and did that. And yeah, so here's my finished yarn. I spun this yarn quite small for me. I don't do a lot of the finer weight yarns. I would say that this is probably like maybe fingering to DK weight in here. But I spun up this fun, very, very Christmassy feeling, wintry feeling, greens, reds, kind of gold or tans in there. Anyway, it's a very fun yarn. I'm excited to work with this. I, at one point, was thinking that I might make socks with it, but once I got it done, the colors are such like easy go-to colors for an accessory that I'd want to wear visibly, that I'm really leaning towards now possibly knitting this into a scarf, because I just have the one skein. It's not necessarily going to be a very large scarf if I do that, so I'm still deciding what I want to do with it, but I had a lot of fun working through the whole process of carding the various fibers together to create a new kind of art bat, and then from that bat spinning it and creating a fun yarn. So that's one of my finished objects, and again, in a way, I guess that's a little bit of a half-finished object or a partially finished object, because now I have yarn, but now I need to do something with it. So I look forward to doing something fun with this. We'll see. All right. The next thing that I got finished, or at least got to further along in the process, are these yarns that I took a pencil roving done by Noro, a rainbow roll is what they call it, and I'll put the picture here. I had 2 of these rainbow rolls, but this is only from one rainbow roll. The other one is still waiting for my attention. But what I did is I spun them into a single ply. And when I say that I spun them into a single ply, let me go back. Pencil roving is very, very, very thin strand of loosely bound fibers. So there's no spin in the fiber. It is, most people know this kind of fiber with Lopi wool in the Icelandic sweaters that are knit. A lot of people will use this kind of roving, pencil roving, for knitting those sweaters. So the difference is that it is not a yarn yet because it has not had any kind of a spin or twist put in it. So what I did is I plied it. I did a single ply, which is just where I took this pencil roving and very carefully put it through my wheel and spun, or just gave it a slight twist. It hardly had any twist. The pencil roving going through my wheel, I had to be very careful, very gentle with it. And then even though I was putting a slight twist in it, it wasn't enough to really grab those fibers tight. So it was just a little bit of a twist. So it kept those fibers nice and fluffy still. And then what I did is I did a Navajo, or a chain ply, which is where, as I'm spinning the fiber through, and again, I've shown this on a previous podcast, as the fiber, or as the single ply is going into my wheel, I'm creating a constant large, like a crochet chain. It's the equivalent of a crochet chain, but I'm doing it with my hands. And so as I'm doing that, I am preserving the color or orientation and allowing the yarn to show as it came off of the roll in a very striped fashion. So I broke this into 2 segments because my plan eventually is to make mittens with this. So I have it in 2 different yarns, or 2 different hanks. But you can see very easily that the green is with the green, the red is with the red, the purple periwinkle color there stays with itself. There's very little barber pulling on this yarn. There's some here and there, like you can see a little bit right in there. But I intended to, with this yarn, very specifically, I wanted to keep the loft of the yarn, but I also wanted to keep the colors, so that when I knit the mittens, the plan is that they will have a very striped look to them naturally, because that's the way that the yarn is. But yeah, that was a fun experience because the pencil roving is already drafted. It doesn't need any drafting, which is where you separate your fibers before you put them through your spinning wheel. It really didn't need any drafting at all. And the biggest thing is that I just had to handle it very gently. I think the hardest part of that is that it's winter in Wyoming, and my hands can get so dry that they tend to grab, fibers can grab on my hands because they're just dry. And so I had to repeatedly make sure that I was putting some sort of moisturizer or something on my hands. So I have some Tuft Woolens, a hand salve, and then I have a lanolin hand cream, and between the two of those I just kept putting stuff on my hands to make sure that my hands weren't grabbing those fibers too much. But yes, so this is another finished object. I don't have a pattern in mind that I'm going to be knitting these up into just yet, but like I say, probably mittens, because I just love the loft of this yarn, and I think they'd make a lovely set of kind of Christmassy, wintry mittens. I have one more of those rainbow rolls, and so I'll be spinning it as well, but I don't know if I will finish it with the chain ply, or if I might try to do some barber pulling with it. It's more bright rainbowy colors, and I think that that one might be fun to do as a where it's the barber pulls, it's got the two colors intermixed, and then maybe knit or crochet a hat. We'll see, but that's down the road a ways. So anyway, got those done too. Yay. All right, so that's my spinning. As you can see, spinning, carding, that kind of stuff has been more on my mind recently, probably because when I'm super busy with work, I am so focused on yarns, I don't get a chance to sit at my spinning wheel as much as I'd like. So over like a holiday break, when I'm taking a little bit of a respite from some of my business, I spent a lot more time at my wheel. And then of course with the new drum carder, it was fun for me to be able to play with the things that I was carding. So anyway, I got some good spinning time in over the course of this last week, which is so fun for me. All right, let's move on to, thanks for the encouragement. What acquisitions have I gotten? Well, as it's holiday time, and as you all know, holiday time means that you get gifts and fun things. I surprisingly didn't get as many yarn gifts just gifted. I did a lot of yarn swaps, which I totally enjoyed. But yeah, there's more probably in my acquisitions that I might have purchased for myself. Shh. It's okay. It's okay if at Christmas you buy for yourself, I promise. Anyway, let's start with something very Christmassy that I picked up. So after knitting all those online socks, I guess I was in the mood for online socks, as well as my local yarn shop, Grand Loop Yarn and Fiber, had just ordered in, Amy had ordered in this yarn quite a while back, but it took a long time to get here. So there was no way by the time it actually arrived that I'd be able to get these socks knit in time for Christmas this year, for 2021 Christmas. So they'll be for 2022 ideally. But this is a beautiful Christmas colorway. It's 75% wool, 25% polyamide, and it does a little bit of a self-striping design in it. So I'm excited to have this in my stash. I'll set it aside probably with some of my other Christmassy type things, my Christmas project bags and such, and then this will be something that I work on as we get closer to Christmas here in 2022. And this will just be a pair of socks for myself, I believe. That's the plan anyway. All right, another thing. So the yarn dyer, her name is Ashley. She was like Blackberry Fiberco or something along those lines at one point, and then she transitioned to Old Road Fiberco, or Old Wire Road, excuse me, Old Wire Road Fiberco, and then she actually shut down her dyeing for a while and moved and had family stuff going on. Well, she has relatively recently started dyeing again, and I'm really excited for that because I really like her dye style. She's actually one of the dyers that I would say just on Instagram and stuff that she was a huge inspiration for me. So our dye styles are a little bit different. Her tastes and stuff and color can sometimes be different than mine, but I really value the stuff that she creates, and I'm always inspired by other dyers, but especially some of Ashley's work. So she, as I said, has just recently started dyeing again, and she's been putting out colors as she has time, but this one, when she posted this on Instagram, I loved it. And it's called Rooibos Chai Rooibos is a red tea from Africa. It's a red leaf, and I love to drink rooibos. It's a non-caffeinated tea, so it tends to be my go-to if I want something in the evening that has a little bit more body to it than just an herbal tea. I'll drink rooibos. And anyway, so rooibos chai is the name of this colorway, and I just think it's a beautiful yarn. This is her twist sock, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, which is just a lovely base to work with. As soon as I got it, and actually when I ordered it, I knew almost immediately what I wanted to do with this. So as I said earlier in the podcast, I haven't caked this up yet because I have enough projects caked up, but I know already what this is going to be. So I'm going to pair it with this, and this yarn doesn't have a colorway name. This is from Clark & L. This is also a 2-ply. I'm assuming that it's either an 80% nylon or superwash merino, 20% nylon, or 75% 25%. So it's very, very close in the base. Very similar appearance to the yarn. But yes, this is from Clark & L. I did the 2020 Advent from Clark & L, and at the end you had the option of getting a full skein, and so I did. This is her full skein, and anyway, that's probably why it doesn't have a colorway name, because it was part of a larger set. But I love these grays. It's got a hint of blue in there, but it's just a soft kind of a dove gray. And then with this is just that super warm rust orange color, and then there's bits of probably it looks kind of like a brown speckle to me, but it might be more of the color that she used for the rust tone. But I like that they're contrasty, so this with the blues and the undertone of blue, and this with an undertone of like an orange, puts it across from each other on the color wheel, which will make it very, very stand out, which is perfect for the pattern I have in mind, because I'm intending to knit up the Cyclone shawl by Handmade Knits. This is a shawl that Amanda just put out in the last, let's see, I think it must have been in November maybe that she put that pattern out, and as soon as I saw it, I knew that was one that I would want on my needles, because I love working with brioche, but sometimes brioche can be a little too busy if it's too much of it. And in this shawl, she does such a beautiful job of keeping it just clean, and I think it's a gorgeous shawl. So I'm excited, and with these very high contrasty colors, that brioche should show up just really beautifully. So this will be a project for me. Again, I'm not going to cake these up just yet, because I know that once I get started on that, I'm probably not going to want to work on much else. So this is sitting in a waiting to be worked on queue for me. But I had to share that acquisition for sure, because that is something I'm really looking forward to knitting. The next thing that I got, as I said, I bought the drum carder. It is a Brother drum carder, but it was distributed by Green Goat Ranch. And I purchased it through her primarily because I've seen her spinning and working with mohair fibers. And since my plan is to work with mohair on the drum carder, I started asking some questions, and she was so kind. I forget her name, I apologize. But she was so kind to answer my questions and just give me some feedback and information. So I went ahead and purchased through her. And then one of the things that she offered is that if you buy a drum carder through her, that she offers beginning carding kits. So the bat that I had that is more Christmassy colors was one of those kits put together, and with some Icelandic. I guess I threw in some of my own fiber as well, but it was primarily one of her kits. And then she also had some other kits. So that's what I have right here, but I'm going to pop up a picture on the screen because you'll see them better in those images. But she has multiple kits. So the one with gold toned fibers and some blue and a mixed bat in here, or a mixed roving in here, is called Dancing Lights. All of these kits are a mix of merino, nylon, bamboo, and Firestar. And then another kit that she included was called Message. It has a very cool palette with a little bit of a pink, and I'm excited about that one. I think that I have lots of things I could do with those colors. And then I actually added some fibers to this myself, some locks, which I'll talk about in just a minute. I'm gonna pull that out for now, but anyway. And then the other kit that she had, let's see, I think it was, I forget the name of that pack. I apologize. I don't have that name for the one that I did already spun or already carded up. I don't have that package here. But anyway, I had 3 carding kits that I got from Green Goat Ranch. So what a great way to introduce someone to their new carder. So very fun. They will be something I enjoy working up in time. And then seeing, like I say, probably art yarns coming from most of these. I would imagine that's what I'll do with most of those. Another acquisition I have is from a swap that I participated in. And this swap, my swap partner's name is Tara, and she sent me such the perfect package of yummy goodness. I'm so excited about what Tara sent me. So she found some more woolly cabin fiber. Let me get this out here so you can see it a little better. This is just another fiber braid with Polworth as the fiber content. And I love, again, oh, these colors are so perfect. I love blues and greens. They are always going to be my favorite visual colors, like the ones that when I just look at something, they always catch my eye. And I don't know what I'm gonna spin this up into just yet, but we'll see. I don't know that this one's gonna become an art yarn. It might be something else fun. But this colorway is called The Lake is Calling. I think that's an appropriate name for this colorway. Next, she sent me, and this is what I'm putting in that carding set, she sent me this gorgeous package of locks. I'm not sure what these are locks from, but look how long these locks are. Wow, I've not worked with locks quite like this yet. So they are just amazing and so luxurious feeling. They're just slinky, silky feeling. Wow, they're gorgeous. So I put those locks in with my Message carding kit because the colors match so well that I think that I'm going to work on something together with those to create a fun art yarn as I card up those fibers. Now, one thing I'll say is those locks cannot be carded on my drum carder. If I put them through the drum carder, the beauty of the locks, the crimp and curl of those locks would start to disappear. So I probably won't put those through the drum carder. They will be separate. And then once I get the bat carded, I'll use those locks and apply them as I'm doing the spinning. So I could put the locks through the carder. There's nothing wrong with that, but it would lose that beauty of the crimp and the curl in those locks, and I don't want to do that. So anyway, I look forward to making something fun with that. That's going to have to be on a day when I'm being super, super creative and just kind of outside the box. Then she also sent Mystica, a tea by the Mystic Monk coffee. Mystic Monk is a coffee that's produced just in Meeteetse, Wyoming, which is only about 45 minutes from here. They are a monastery, and they produce coffee that they ship all over the states, possibly the world, I'm not sure, but it is sold locally. The coffee is sold locally in our grocery stores and stuff. But I'd never seen tea by them. So it's really crazy that I've known about Mystic Monk for a while now, but I had not ever seen tea. So very cool gift. And this tea has spearmint, rosemary, lemon balm, linden, eucalyptus, and other items. It's all kinds of leaves and roots and a very herbal tea. So yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that. Wellness Blend is the name of it. Oh, it says a blend of 8 herbs. Anyway, that was fun and kind of a fun treat to learn a little bit more about Mystic Monk, which is right out my back door, kind of. And then she sent a cute bottle of, or vial of origami star stitch markers. These are all very Christmassy stitch markers, and the origami paper stars are adorable. So very fun. I'll put those again with some of my Christmas projects. Maybe I'll stick them in with my Christmas sock yarn right away, just so that next year at Christmas time I can pull those out and it's just a fun little treat. Yeah, so I feel like there's something else that she had included, but I don't have it here with me. So I will have already popped up an image of this swap, and if there's something there that I'm not mentioning, sorry, I forgot about it. But anyway, everything else was so much fun to get. My final acquisition I'm gonna mention was actually a gift from my husband. This was something that I picked out for myself, but I have good friends here in Cody that have a business called Slope Style. And what they do is they take old skis, used skis that are no longer going to be skied on. And when I'm talking skis, probably primarily they're working with alpine skis, but there might be some Nordic skis that they have in their collection as well. But what they do is they take them and they cut them down. And let's see, I'm going to take this off so that it's easier to show this part. So here's just a little charm that they made with their ski. And so if you can imagine, this is the bottom of the ski. This is the part that would slide on the snow. This is the top of the ski. This is where there's lots of times logos and graphics and stuff. And then this is the interior of the ski. So they cut these and then they turn them into earrings, necklaces. In this case, it's just a little charm on a bag. There's keychains. They make all kinds of things. And anyway, it's really fun. I have some of their earrings. I've gifted some of the keychains. They have zipper pulls and all kinds of things. But they also, with their business, started doing other products that they can include their ski pieces on. So kind of like a way to branch out their business. And one of the things they've started doing is these great canvas totes. So this is an oiled canvas cloth, and it's just a very generous tote. And I love the striped engineer's conductor's fabric, I guess. Is that what you'd call it? But anyway, it's just a really, really pretty tote bag with a leather handle. And I thought it'd be a great project bag. If you're a knitter or a crocheter and you see a tote, don't you always think that they're going to be great project bags? I mean, what else would you use it for, right? Except to throw your knitting or crochet in. I mean, you could use it as a purse. You could use it as a book bag. You could use it as so many things, but immediately I see fiber. That's just what's going to go in there. I know it is. So that's what I think of when I see a tote like this. But anyway, it's a beautifully made bag. I'm excited to have it. And I have actually done commission for Slope Style. I've mentioned them before because I do knit and crochet hats for them, and my pom-poms also for them. And so it's kind of fun for me to support their business in another way by buying one of their bags. So that was a super fun acquisition this Christmas as well. All right, let's move into a little bit of shop talk. What's coming up for me? Well, first, as it is the new year and I have a little bit of time here to just take a pause before the year really gets rolling, I'm going to do an unplug week. And what I mean by that is that over the course of this next week, starting after this podcast is posted, I'm going to be taking just a social media pause. Internet usage is going to be minimal. I'm just going to take a little bit of a break. I haven't done this since probably about 2019, I think, where I did like a dedicated just time off of social media, time off the internet for a period. And I just think it's good for us to do every now and then, kind of a mental health break, an opportunity to kind of see the world again without seeing it through the eyes of the internet, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, or I love all these platforms to be able to see and learn more about the world. But sometimes it's enjoyable just to embrace the world that we're in right around us. So I'm going to be taking a pause for this next week. Now, 1 week isn't very long. You guys probably won't notice much of me being gone. But during this time, just know that anything happening in my shop, anything happening on Instagram, anything happening online related to Sweet Mountain Crafts is just going to take a little bit of a pause. So all that means is that I'll be out of office until January 9th, I suppose, that I'll get back, and then on that week of the 9th, I'll get back into a regular flow of things. So with that being said, if you happen to stop by my shop and find anything that you love, feel free to make any purchases you'd like. Just know that I won't be doing any shipping until after the 9th. But yeah, I'm looking forward to spending some time with my family. Our oldest is still home from college visiting, and so we'll get a little bit more time with him before he heads back to school. Our second oldest is 18. He's looking to kind of fly the coop here in the next little bit. So again, spending some time with him before he takes off. And then our 2 younger kids are still at home and in high school doing online school at this point. But unfortunately, they have to they'll be doing their work, over this next week. And so it won't be as much time off for them while we're spending time with their brothers, but we'll still be able to spend some time and just hopefully enjoy some time as a family, playing games and hanging out, and just, like I say, taking a bit of a pause from some of life. So with that, I did show at the beginning of this video some footage of us doing puzzles. Our family loves doing puzzles. I don't think there's anyone in this house that doesn't enjoy puzzles. We all do. So lots of times around the holiday season, and probably in this next week as well, we'll lay out puzzles, and it'll just be sitting there, and anyone that has time, wants to take the time, comes over, puts in a few pieces until they're tired or ready to move on to other things. And we just enjoy doing puzzles. So it's kind of a fun project that we work on together as a family. But yeah, so we'll probably be doing some more puzzles. We'll be doing some game nights, that kind of thing. With that though, as I said, I intend to be participating in some upcoming MALs, or some MALs that have started now, I suppose. So I wanted to mention those MALs. And when I'm saying MALs so quickly, just to make sure people are clear, what I mean is make-alongs. So MAL is a abbreviation of make-along. And during this time, I hope to get in some knitting for sure, and participate in some of these. So the first one I want to mention is the Two Sisters and Some Yarn MAL. And that is, again, using the yarn set that I dyed. Or they have been generous and said, if you happen to have any yarn from my shop, or if you happen to have any yarn that they have listed in their list of yarn dyers that they support, participate in that MAL. And again, it's a MAL, so if you're a crocheter or a knitter, or maybe you're a weaver and you could weave this yarn, or come up with something else that you would do with this yarn, there are prizes planned, and I will be contributing to those prizes. So make sure to find out more details through Two Sisters and Some Yarn. The next MAL that I intend to participate in, but I haven't yet caked up the yarn for, is the Rose Opal Knits MAL. And again, this is using yarn that I dyed for the podcast Rose Opal Knits. So Erica and Daphne, again, I reached out to them and asked if I could dye a yarn in honor of their podcast. So I put together this yarn set, and my plan is still to get yarn in these 2 colors that are in full skeins, so that if someone wanted to work with just the golden color, which is Daphne, or the more orange tone, which is Erica, I'll have some of those in the shop here in January. And the idea is that if you knit or crochet or weave or whatever you may do with these yarns, that you can participate in that make-along. Again, I'll be contributing prizes to that as well, so make sure to check that out on Facebook. The last MAL that I want to mention is actually a KCAL, which KCAL means knitting and or crochet along. And that means that, again, you can participate doing either knitting or crochet projects. And this is the Unity Kcal, and this is being hosted by Kia of Cedar Hill Farms. Kia is taking a pause from her regular business as she's had it up to this point. She's just taking a bit of a break from that, but she is trying to encourage and promote the idea of just how much unity we have in this knitting world, in this fiber world, that we have so many things in common in the projects that we love and the activities that we participate in. So the Unity Kcal is a fun opportunity to, again, be a part of a bigger group of people that just enjoy knitting and crocheting. And again, I'll be contributing prizes to that as well. So these are all great opportunities to continue with your knitting, your crocheting, your making, and then also to win prizes in the process. And I have all the information in the show notes for each one of those. So if you want to find out more, be sure to look there to find out the details and join us for sure. And now, till next time, some podcasts that I have enjoyed watching recently. So I have just more recently been introduced to Faith and Knitting, which is Rhonda, and she's out of Pennsylvania, sharing a little bit of her testimony and her love of the knitting world. And then on one of her most recent podcasts, she was sharing quite a bit of her quilting because she is an experienced quilter. So it was fun to see all her work in specifically her Christmas quilts. But it is enjoyable to listen to what Rhonda has to share, and I look forward to seeing more of her podcast and possibly going back and catching up on some of hers. Another new podcaster is Creabea Knits, and that is Rebecca in the UK. She is, again, just a really new podcaster. She's about on the same number of podcasts as myself, maybe a little bit ahead of me, but she just seems like a sweetheart and just so much fun to listen to her talk about her knitting. She's an avid knitter and has done a lot of knitting, so it's fun to see what Rebecca has to share. And then Little Fern Fibers. Little Fern Fibers is Ellie, and she's in Minnesota. I'm pretty sure in Minnesota. But it's fun to hear her talk about her knitting and her love of fibers. She's had some really unique experiences working with wolf fiber, which is not something that everybody gets the opportunity to do. So that's fun to see what she's doing with that. And then she also is an art yarn spinner. So it's fun for me to look through her Instagram feed because she has some beautiful art yarns, and she's definitely a more skilled art yarn spinner, has more experience with that. But she also has little ones, so she's a busy mama with littles. And anyway, it's just fun to see what Ellie has to share. Some things that I'm reading or enjoying. I just recently received issue 35, the Winter 2021 Ply magazine. So I haven't yet had a chance to look through this extensively, but I'm super excited. You can see that the subtitle here is Head and Hands, and it is focused on hats and gloves and mitts and all kinds of things. And here, oh, I love layouts like that where it's just full color. So many beautiful colors, and they show, yes, what I'm working on, making bats. So doing blending of colors in order to create fun bats. So I'm looking forward to reading through information there, possibly learn a few things to apply to what I'm doing. Here they show, as I said before, a diz pulling the fiber through to create roving. And then, yeah, so here's the fiber being pulled through and made into roving. But it's a beautiful magazine. I'm looking forward, like I say, to this edition or this issue specifically because it looks like it has a lot in here that I'm going to be able to apply to some of the stuff that I'm doing right now. So another thing that I've just started, I decided that I needed some more audiobooks because I find myself busy with my hands a lot, but it makes it harder to read. And I love reading. I love books. I just find that I can be so busy with my hands that it's hard to take the time to sit and just hold a book, to read a book. I need to go ahead and start the Outlander series. So I've just started the first book. I'm probably a few hours into the first book. This is a series by Diana Galbadon, and I look forward to reading those. I know so many people have enjoyed the Outlander series, and yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. So we'll see what I think as I continue, but it's been a lot of fun to read so far. I am continuing for a physical book, continuing to read Brothers Karamazov. I am continued to be blown away by Dostoevsky's ability to put into story form the human condition, I guess is the best way to put that. It amazes me. I mean, I just read a portion just a few nights ago that it astounds me that he just so well puts into words how people act and think and treat others. And even though this book was written in the late 1800s, so much of what he says still applies today, which is just, again, that evidence that history proves that people are people across the ages. It doesn't really matter what era you live in. There's technological differences, there's industrial differences, but people are still people. So I'm very much enjoying reading the Brothers Karamazov still, and continue to do that when I have a moment to just be able to read. And like I say, most of the time as I'm going to bed in the evenings. Yeah, I think that's all I have to share with you guys today. So I hope you have a lovely start to your new year. I hope you have all kinds of fun projects planned for this upcoming year and just have so many fun things planned for 2022. I hope you all the best and just look forward to seeing you again soon. Talk to you later. Bye. Hi. I'll cut that out. It's not like I'm live. I'm not live. So, as I said, oops.